Hey guys, and welcome to another weekly vlog. It feels a little bit strange to be starting a vlog at this time of day because it's currently just before midnight on Friday the 3rd of April, and normally I would obviously be dead asleep at this time of day because it's the middle of the night, but I'm actually just about to get on a live show, which is super exciting because I've never been part of a live show before. This is going to be a fun new experience, but it has been organised by Jacqueline from Weavy Booking and it is called the Read with Friends live show, and Jacqueline is obviously based in America, so the live show is 7 p.m. over there, but here it's obviously midnight, so I'm staying up a lot later than normal, but I'm super excited. It's basically like Jacqueline started it last week. It's just like a load of booktubers come together, talk about what they're currently reading, do like a live reading sprint for an hour, and then just catch up about how far they've got and what they thought of their book. So I'm really excited to take part and just to chat with everyone and have my first live show experience, which should be really fun. I will put a link in the description below to Jacqueline's channel because it's wonderful, and also to the live show which will be up on her channel much before this vlog is up, so you can go and check that out if you're interested. But I'm going to be starting a new book which is The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker, and I'm doing this as a buddy read with Emma, Carolyn, Lucy and Mary, and I'm super excited to be doing a buddy read with them because we've been wanting to sort of organise one for a while now, and we've finally settled to read this one for April. And also it feels like ages since I've picked up a book because last week I started my yoga teacher training like last Saturday, so pretty much a week ago, and I've been doing that all week long. I've actually still got 2 more days left of this training block to go, but basically it's 8:30 to 5:30 every single day. This is a 9-day block, so the only books I've been reading have been anatomy books, so I haven't had any chance to pick any like actual fun fiction books up, but I'm now finally making a start on this one, so I'm super excited, and yeah, I'm just looking forward to it. Really hoping that I don't fall asleep in the like hour reading sprint section because, as I said, I've been doing yoga teacher training 8:30 to 5:30 every single day. I've been doing 7 days straight now, and there's 2 more to go, and my body is tired, so we'll see how it goes, but hopefully I manage to stay awake and get some reading done. But to try and keep myself awake as well, I'm just going to go and make a cup of tea and then get logged on to the Zoom call, which is where we're doing the video from. I literally fell asleep right here on the sofa straight after that live show finished last night because it finished just after 2 a.m, which is just so crazy because my alarm this morning went off at 6:30, so I've literally had like 4 hours sleep. I'm surprisingly feeling like relatively refreshed right now for such a little amount of sleep because normally I am like a solid 8 hours minimum, but I love a 10-hour night. It's just like, those are my favourites. So I definitely feel like I've not had anywhere near as much sleep as I normally would, so I'm surprised by how like energetic I'm feeling right now, but I'm feeling like it might hit me later on in the day because, like I said earlier, I've got my yoga teacher training going on for the next couple of days, and that is from 8:30 to 5:30 on Zoom calls, so I have a feeling that might hit me at some point later on today whilst I'm trying to process all that information. I think my brain might just crash, but for now I'm feeling pretty good, and I'm so glad that I took part in the live show because it was really, really fun. I actually, like I said, have never done a live show before, so it was a great first live show experience because basically everyone just like chatted about like the books that they've been reading and just sort of did a live read-in together, which was really nice because it actually forced me to do some reading. I feel like recently I've been non-stop on the computer all the time because obviously a lot of people have started working from home, which I did as well for a little while, and that obviously involved a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of working in the bedroom, like at our desk, and it just felt like it was difficult to like separate work and home because you obviously were working at your home. And then this week I've obviously been on Zoom calls all day every day for my yoga teacher training, so I feel like I've just been doing a lot of screen time and not necessarily finding time for other stuff, whereas obviously I technically was on the screen doing the live show, but for a whole hour in the middle of the show everyone just sat down and read, and that was so helpful because I feel like I've been not prioritising reading because I've had other like more important things to do, but because I was actually doing the reading for something, I like actually prioritised it, and it was really fun, so I'm super glad that I managed to do that. And the book that I started was The Silence of the Girls, and it was super interesting. I made my way through just over 60 pages of it, and I'm really intrigued by it so far. It's a like Trojan War retelling, so I'm not really very up to date on like Greek mythology, to be perfectly honest, and the only other Greek retelling that I've read was Circe, which was brilliant, but this one is by Pat Barker, so a different author to Circe, who's written by Madeline Miller, and I was just really intrigued to see how they differed. I'd say this one is definitely more graphic, a bit more shocking, and it does deal with the theme of like warfare, so it does kind of feel a little bit different from Circe, which definitely feels a bit more like whimsical and magical. This one feels a lot more like grounded in reality. But it is really interesting and I'm super glad to have read it, and I can't wait to speak with Carolyn and Emma and Lucy and Mary about their thoughts on it, because now that I've finally started I can actually get involved in our group chat that we've got for the buddy read. But yeah, that was that, and I'm super excited for the next live show. I'm actually taking part in the one next week as well, and luckily this one is at 1 PM EST on Thursday, and that means that it's only 6 PM here, which is a lot more manageable than midnight to 2 AM, so that should be really fun. But for now, I've still got a little bit of time before my yoga teacher training starts this morning, so I'm just going to grab some breakfast, watch some YouTube videos and just relax for a little bit. So I just finished up with my first block of yoga teacher training. I've been in 9 days straight of training, which has been amazing but super exhausting, just because there is so much information to take in and a lot of like physical practice as well, so I am super ready for a rest. But I kind of can't believe that it's over. I've been really enjoying every single day, like learning so much about yoga and also talking to all of the other trainees, and it's just been such a great experience, so I can't wait to start the next block in a few weeks. But today was a really great day because we started off with the test, which kind of sounds like a contradictory to having a great day, because I was a little bit nervous that things wouldn't have settled in, but I actually passed with 100%, which I was just so happy with, because it just obviously means that the information has gone in and I do kind of know what I'm talking about, kind of thing. So that was just a very nice way to finish off the block, because I now feel a lot more confident that I'm sort of doing it right and that I'm making good progress. So it is Sunday afternoon, it's pretty much midday, so I'm gonna go grab some lunch and then just relax and do some reading, because like I said at the beginning of this vlog, I haven't had much time for that this week because I've just been doing non-stop yoga. So I will be just having a nice afternoon of relaxation, I think. I just had the best shower ever. I feel so relaxed. Our shower was broken for a couple of weeks, like it was still working, but the temperature just was going between like scaldingly hot and then freezing cold, and so it was really hard to have a nice shower, but it's now fixed. So I just had the best shower ever, and also I just feel so relaxed, probably because for the first time in like nearly 10 days I don't have to think about muscle origin and insertion points or extension and flexion of anything, so that's a nice break. Honestly, give it like literally a day and I'll probably already want to start revising my yoga stuff again and learning more new stuff, because I am literally obsessed. But after like 10 days straight, I am glad for a break, just to kind of like wind down and also just let all the information like properly soak in, because I feel like when you're learning so much new stuff every single day, it's really hard to kind of like really absorb it. So I'm looking forward to letting this block's information kind of properly sink in, so that when it gets to a couple of weeks time and we start the second block, I'm actually like ready to like fully dive into learning new stuff again. But I'm now just about to do some reading, and I realised I forgot to mention that I'm actually taking part in the Owls Readathon. It's I'm sure most of you know about the Owls Magical Readathon. It's huge and so many people are taking part. I uploaded my TBR a couple of weeks ago. It's like a full April long readathon, but I've kind of like held off starting mine just because obviously I knew for the first like 5 days of the readathon I wasn't really going to have any time for reading, but now I'm going to have plenty of time for reading, so I'm going to continue on reading The Silence of the Girls. Now if you've seen my TBR, and I'll link it down below if not, you'll know that I selected 2 careers that I was gonna sort of go for. One was aura and one was culinary sorcerer, and I've already deviated from that TBR by picking this book up for my buddy read, because that doesn't match the prompts for either of those careers. But I figure I'm just gonna try and like tick off as many of the prompts as possible, regardless of whether they fit into my career or not. So this is the prompt for Care of Magical Creatures, which is to read a book with a beak on the cover, because there are several little birds up here in the corner, so there are a few beaks on this cover. So I'm going to carry on reading this now, and I'm really excited to get back into it, because when I started it on Friday night it was really good. So me and Jay just got back from a morning bike ride, and it's the first time I've done like a proper bike ride in a while, and my legs are feeling it. I also feel like the yoga anatomy lessons have really gotten to me, because every time I was like pumping my legs and going up a hill, all I could think about was what each of the muscles were doing. But that's good, I guess, because it's helping me to solidify it. But it was an experience I've never had before. It was a really nice bike ride though, because it is so sunny today and so warm. It's amazing. We were really worried because we were both woken up at like 5:30 by heavy rain, but then we went back to sleep and didn't get back up again until about 7, and by then all the rain was gone and it was all dry. So don't know what happened there, but it has been a lovely morning so far. I'm now just going to try and film a couple of videos just while there's some nice weather, and then who knows what we'll do with the rest of the day. Even though I know it's not, this afternoon feels very much like a Sunday, so I just feel super chilled out, and I feel like it's the perfect time to do some baking. So I've whipped out this sourdough recipe book because Jay got me this not the Christmas just gone but the year before that, because I was kind of really into making bread at that time, and I did get into trying to make a sourdough, but then I kind of like abandoned my starter and just went back to buying sourdough at the shops. But now that I've got a lot more time to dedicate to actually trying to make it perfect, I thought now would be a perfect time to try and make myself a new sourdough starter and start baking some bread again. So I need to go and find a jar and then start making the starter. Tuesday, guys. I am feeling a little bit nervous this morning, but also quite excited because one of my friends from Instagram, Ella, she is a yoga teacher, and she's recently just started up a podcast all about yoga. It's called The Yoga Habit, and she's just asked me to take part and be a guest on the podcast, talking mostly about like my yoga teacher training experience and everything to do with that, which is super exciting, and I love podcasts, so it's kind of a dream to actually go on one. But I'm also a little bit nervous just because I've never done one before, but that is about to start in like a few minutes, so I'll let you know how it goes afterwards. But for now, I'm just gonna sit here and be a little bit nervous, but mostly excited. The podcast was actually so much fun. I feel like I've ticked something off of my bucket list there because I love podcasts, and I've actually finally been on one, so that is super exciting. There was a quick fire round at the end though, and I was terrible. One of the questions was, what's your favourite word? And bear in mind that I obviously have a booktube channel and an English degree. I couldn't think of any words. It was embarrassing. I tried to say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, but I couldn't even get those words out, so that went very well. But aside from that, the rest of the podcast talking all about yoga was amazing, and I'm super glad that Ella actually had me on there. It was so much fun, and I can't wait to actually like hear it back and see what I sound like on podcast form. But for now, I've got a less exciting job in front of me because these books all need to be sorted out. The bookshelf is a mess currently. I did a little bit of an unhaul yesterday and I actually filmed that, so that'll be up in a couple of weeks. But I've gotten rid of like maybe 14 or 15 books, but the rest of them need to go back on the shelves, and I'm just trying to reorganise it because our bookshelves are definitely not big enough for the amount of books that we have, but I'm going to try and make it like slightly less disgusting to look at, so we'll give it a try. already looks so much better. So on the top shelf I have all of the hardbacks because they obviously don't really match up in size to any of the other books. Then I have the Game of Thrones collection and my Harry Potter collection. Then on this shelf we have some classics. The Russian deluxe ones are beautiful. Then we have these leather-bound ones. And then a few of the, I think they're Virago modern classics. And I think Virago is a company or a publishing house which only publishes female authors, which is quite cool. And then we have a dystopian collection, which is really nice. Then on this next shelf, we have more classics. So these are all of the Penguin Deluxe classics, which I always go on about. So they all have like really cool artwork on the cover, but they don't actually match. They're just part of the same collection, and also a little life because that didn't really fit anywhere else. Then moving down to the next one is where we have to start double stacking. So the way I've done it is if we've got a collection, so for example Jay has these Cormac McCarthy ones, they've gone on the front because they look quite cool. We've got these Penguin World Classics and also the Penguin English Library because they look really pretty. Then this pile here is where I've put my TBR, just because I thought it was easier to put all of the books that I still need to read actually at the front of the shelf so that I can find them easily and I don't have to like pull the shelves apart every time I'm looking for a new book, which is typically what happens. And then moving down again, we have again some double stacking. There's slightly less books on this shelf thanks to this little pile, which is the ones that I'm actually unhauling. And then we have a few more. So Jay has the Talented Mr. Ripley collection. I've got some Stephen King books, building a small collection there. And then there's these like tiny books that don't actually match up to normal book size. I think these are all mass market paperbacks, so they don't fit. But overall, I'm feeling a lot happier now because we've decided to get rid of some books, and also there's a little bit more space on the shelves and they don't look quite as disgusting. So that's always a nice feeling. So I'm just about to go and do some yoga in the garden because it is such a beautiful day that it would feel weird not to go outside and make the most of it. So now that I've tidied up the bedroom a bit, I'm going to go and enjoy the outdoors, and then once I've had a little bit of a stretch, I think I'm going to try and finish off reading The Silence of the Girls. Also, fun fact, I just had a little look at this little author bio that's at the back of the book, and Pat Barker, the author of this book, is actually from Yorkshire, which I had no idea about. So she is a local author to me, which is super cool, just because I feel like obviously the world is such a big place and there are so many authors from everywhere. So I don't feel like I see many authors who are super local to me come up very often. But that is really cool just because I didn't realise it until just now, but it's a really fun fact. So I'm gonna go and do that, and then even feel like this is peak self-isolation mode coming in full force, but I'm thinking I might try making the whipped coffee that everyone's been making from TikTok, so stay tuned for that. Mine looks quite as cute as the ones that I've seen on Instagram, but the proof will be in the taste, so we'll see how it goes. All I can taste is oat milk. One second. I'm gonna have to like really try and get some of the coffee in there. That's such a weird texture. It's like buttercream or something, but it's coffee. I bet you could actually use this as like the icing on like a coffee cake or something. I'll have to do some baking with it later, but it's so weird that it actually like whips up like that. It was quite the challenge to find a good whipping utensil because first of all I tried with my like handheld coffee frother, but it couldn't handle how thick this was, so that didn't really work. Then I tried just the whisk, but that didn't really work. Tried a fork, that didn't really work. So the only thing that actually did it properly was the like handheld like cake mixer, you know, like not like a KitchenAid because that's too fancy for me, but like that type of thing. So it was a bit of a challenge, so, but it is nice. At least now I know. So I actually did manage to finish up reading The Silence of the Girls, and this was such a brilliant read. I really didn't have very many expectations for this book going in, just because I hadn't really heard too many people talking about it, and the main reason I picked it up was just to do a buddy read with some of my friends, so I didn't have any major expectations, but this book was honestly incredible. I would highly recommend picking it up if you are interested at all in Greek mythology, or if you've been a fan of anything by Madeline Miller like Circe, just because I feel like this book in a lot of ways is very similar to Circe, just in the sense that the focus is really on shining a light on the stories that didn't really get much emphasis in the original myths and legends that we got from ancient Greece. So obviously in Circe it's kind of like a spin-off from the Odyssey where we get to hear like Circe's original story, and in this one the focus is on Achilles and his story, but the sort of main character that we focus on is, I'm terrible at pronouncing this name, I really can't figure it out. I think it's Briseis? Either way, it is focusing on Briseis's story and her kind of connection with Achilles and everything that she goes through as a like sort of prisoner of war essentially. So it's a really, really interesting story and I really enjoyed reading it. Honestly, I think this is probably going to be a 5-star read, at least a 4-star, but I think probably a 5, just because it was so interesting. I think the way that it kind of combined this sort of character who is obviously our protagonist and who is innocent in this situation with some characters who are essentially the villains of the story, but also kind of delves into their backstories and kind of shines a light on everyone's varying motives and makes it very difficult to sort of pin one character as entirely good and one as entirely evil, just because it really delves into that element of the morally grey, and I think that's super interesting because it really did sort of bring a much more rounded view to that story, A, by giving some attention to some characters that didn't really get much attention in the original myth, but also by delving into the intricacies of all of the characters. So it was a really, really interesting book and I absolutely loved it. So I think this was the book I said I was going to read for the Care of Magical Creatures prompt. Now my next read, unfortunately, I cannot seem to match up with any of the prompts for the Owls readathon, but I'm going to read it anyway just because I want to. So I'm going to be picking up Emma by Jane Austen because Jay just read this book and I want to read it so that we can watch the new film because it looks brilliant, and I really want to read another Jane Austen because I think the last one I read of hers was Pride and Prejudice and that was quite a while ago now, so I really want to get back into some Austen. And yeah, I'm going to read that this afternoon. I'm going to make a start on it at least and get some reading done in the lovely sunshine outside. But yeah, sadly this one doesn't really match up for the Owls, but what are you going to do? So I'm going to go outside, practice some handstands I think, do a little bit of yoga-y stuff and then get started on some reading. Sourdough has bubbled up so much overnight, it is literally like doubled in size and it is so frothy and bubbly. I think maybe because it's really warm weather this week it is like fermenting slightly quicker than it would have done in cold weather, which is great because then it hopefully means I won't have to wait too much longer before it is ready to make bread with, which is super exciting. But I have such a desire to do some baking today and I definitely don't want to wait until that is ready to make bread with. So I think I'm going to join the hype of pretty much every single other person on quarantine and lockdown right now by doing a banana bread because I have some very brown spotty bananas in the cupboard. So I think I'm going to go and make a banana loaf, which is always a good idea. I'm now just over 100 pages through Emma. I think I just reached page 107-ish. So I'm about a third of the way into this book now, and I am really, really enjoying it. I feel like because it's been a little while since I've picked up a classic, and in particular a Jane Austen, it did take me a little bit of time to just like get into the writing style and get into the flow of the book, particularly because there are a lot of characters in this story, so it just takes a little while just to like let them all settle in and kind of figure out who exactly is who and how they all relate to each other. But now that I'm actually like fully into the story, I am really enjoying it. I feel like obviously for people who don't usually read classics have this like preconception of being very boring and slow and just having not much going for them in comparison to like contemporaries or fantasies where there is so much going on. Whereas I actually think Jane Austen is a really good antidote to that if you are someone who is kind of off-put from reading classics because you think they're going to be really boring, because Jane Austen always writes in a really fun way, in my opinion. I feel like she's got a very calculated writing style where there's always kind of something that she's trying to make a point of, but she goes about doing it in a quite like satirical way, and I just really enjoy the way that she sort of gets her points across in a really fun writing style, in my opinion. And this one in particular is, I think, one of her most comedic works. It's known as her comedy, and I really, really enjoy it because I think it's very fun and lighthearted. It's not got anything super serious happening in it, which I think is nice sometimes, so I'm really, really enjoying it. If you are not familiar with the story, basically we have this young girl, Emma, who is 21. She is from a very rich family, and her mother died when she was quite young, and her older sister got married, so she's basically like the mistress of the house, and she's quite spoiled. Everyone really likes her. She's clever, she's pretty, she's kind of got a lot going for her, and she kind of sees herself as like a matchmaker, and she likes to sort of put different people together, but she herself doesn't really have any interest in being married, which is something I found quite interesting because in these classics of this era, marriage is so often like the primary focus of the story, which kind of is still the case in this novel, but it's just interesting to have a female protagonist who is like very much against getting married and doesn't really see the point of it, and she makes that point quite clearly that she doesn't really see much purpose in getting married, which I think is really cool. Obviously, by comparison to like modern day standards, I don't think you could necessarily call this like a feminist novel, but when you look at the context of when this book was written and the world in which it exists, it's obviously really powerful for a female to sort of make that point that they choose that they don't want to get married, and making the point that that doesn't reflect negatively on them either, and it's just a personal decision. So far obviously I'm only about a third of the way in, so plenty of things could change, and who knows where Emma is going to be at the end of the book, but for now I'm really, really enjoying seeing how the book is developing. So I'm gonna go and get some lunch now, just chill out for a bit. I might do some editing, and then I might end up doing some more reading as well this afternoon. But oh my god, I'm sorry if I sound like I can't speak properly this morning, because I've got like, I basically bit my tongue the other day, and ever since then I've had this like mark on the end of my tongue where it has just been so sore, and today I feel like I can't even speak properly because it really, really hurts. So I do apologise if I sound a little bit weird, but yeah, gonna go and make some lunch, probably something that doesn't require much chewing on account of my malfunctioning tongue. So it is now Friday morning, although to be honest I feel like it's getting to the point now where days are kind of losing their meaning, because without like work and other things that I can plan aside from, you know, being at home, days kind of don't really have much effect on my life. But technically it is Friday today, and thankfully it's also looking a lot sunnier and brighter today than it did yesterday, so I definitely feel a lot more energetic and just like positive at the beginning of today, so that is fun. And I think we're going to go out for a little walk now just to get some fresh air and make the most of the nicer weather, and then, you know, I guess we'll come home and just see where the rest of the day takes us, because that's pretty much all we can do at the moment. We saw the cutest cows on that walk. It was actually incredible. I've never seen so many calves in one field before. They were all so cute. But now that we're home, we're just about to do a little bit of gardening. Now, I'm not a natural gardener. I'm usually not very good at it. I've managed to kill many a plant in my time, but I now do have quite a few plants on my windowsill that seem to be doing okay, so maybe I've like kind of learned how to do it properly, or I'm just sort of blagging it. But either way, I have some plants that are still alive, and just the other week we actually decided to plant some like vegetables and fruit in little planter pots in the conservatory to try and like make a little vegetable patch in the garden. So we planted some courgettes, some peppers, some strawberries, and then in the garden we did like potatoes and onions and things like that. And the courgette one has absolutely like sprung up. They are absolutely huge. So we just put them in some tiny like sprouting planter pots to begin with, but the courgettes have grown so much that we already need to replant them. So we're just about to go and put them into some bigger pots now and see how big they grow, because I honestly can't believe how quickly these ones are sprouting up. Since dinner, done a little bit more reading of Emma, and I'm now just over 200 pages in, so about halfway through this book. And I have to say, this is a really enjoyable read. Like I mentioned earlier, it's very light-hearted and fun, and I think Emma as a protagonist is very relatable in the sense that she has a lot of human flaws, and she's not afraid to sort of say that she doesn't like people, and she can be a little bit conceited and have her like prejudices against people, which obviously aren't necessarily brilliant characteristics for someone to have, but they are characteristics that pretty much everyone has, like not in necessarily the same degree as Emma does, but everyone has these like personal likes and dislikes, and sometimes you just don't like someone for no good reason other than you just don't really vibe with them. And I feel like Emma is a great character for sort of expressing that, and I feel like particularly in protagonists and female protagonists of this era, it was very necessary for them to be seen as super proper and well liked and everything. And whilst Emma is a very well liked character, I think Jane Austen does a really good job of creating female characters who are both likeable but also very believably flawed, and I just think it makes them even more compelling as characters to read about because they don't feel so out of touch with reality, which I really personally enjoy. However, this is a book, like I said, with so many characters that I feel like only now, about halfway in, do we really have pretty much all of the characters involved in the story kind of present, and the like narrative is kind of taking off a little bit more, because I do feel like it has to take quite a lot of time just to introduce everyone, because there is such a large cast of characters, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it just means that my reading pace has been a little bit slower than perhaps I normally would have liked, just because it's taken me a little while longer to get used to all of the characters. But nevertheless, I am really enjoying this story. It's fun, light-hearted, and I'm really excited to be getting back into some Jane Austen. Now, it's as I've probably mentioned, it's Friday evening, and I'm going to end up with this vlog finishing here just because that's what I'm gonna do basically. So I will obviously keep you updated with all of my thoughts in Emma in my next week's vlog. So thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. I feel like this week has been a little bit all over the place just because obviously I started out the week with yoga teacher training, and then the rest of the week has just kind of been a mishmash of everything going on at home during lockdown. So I hope you've enjoyed hearing all of my thoughts on the books I've read this week and everything else I've been getting up to, and like I said, I'll catch up with you in next week's vlog. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.